Hey everybody, my name is Philip. Earlier this year I decided to start reading the Bible all the way through from front to end. I really wanted to just kind of share here a little video journal of where I'm at, what I'm reading, what I'm learning. Really the intention for me is just to learn more about the character of God and see what lessons that He might have for me so that I can live out in my life. So I hope these videos are beneficial to you in some way, and I hope you enjoy them. Hey everybody, we are back. We are in 2 Kings chapter 4. If you remember, 2 Kings chapter 4 is a big one, so I split it up into different sections. Today, we're going to be in verses 8 through 37. Now, the title of this section of passage is Elisha and the Woman from Shunem. Shunem! I'm sorry, that's just fun to say. So Elijah basically passes through this town of Shunem. A wealthy lady and her husband notice that he's a man of God. They recognize and acknowledge that he's a man of God, and they offer him a meal. So that meal sort of turns into a routine or a pattern. She basically, every time he comes through the town, he stops there, he rests, and he eats. So this lady says to her husband, let's build him a room on top of the house where he has a table, a chair, a lamp, and a bed, so that every time he comes to visit, he has a place to stay. So the husband agrees, they do this. Elisha, he's moved by this act of generosity, and he says, what can we do for this woman? Gehazi, get in here! Gehazi is the name of his servant. I'm probably not saying that right. Gehazi, what can we do for this woman who's shown us such kindness? Gehazi's like, I don't know, sir. Can we put in a good word for like her kids with the king or the commanders of the army or anything like that? Gehazi said, oh no, she doesn't have any children. She doesn't have a son. And Elisha says, call her in here. So the lady comes. He says, hey, I just want to let you know, by this time next year, you're going to have a son. She's like, what does she say? She says in verse 16, no, my lord, O man of God, don't deceive me and get my hopes up like that. But sure enough, a year later, the woman has a son. So years go by, the son grows up healthy and strong. One day, he's out in the field with his father and the harvesters, and he just screams, my head hurts, my head hurts. So the father says, quick, get the son back home, give him to his mother. Which I just thought was kind of funny. The father's like, a tragic situation. Let his mom take care of this. I can relate to that. Anyhow, they bring the child home. The mom sees the son. She lays him on the bed that Elisha had used whenever he comes through the town. She lays him on the bed. Unfortunately, the child passes away. So she doesn't panic. She literally just lays him on the bed. She walks out. She closes the door. She calls her husband and says, hey, I need a servant and a donkey. I'm going to go see the man of God. He's like, what are you going to see the man of God for? It's not a festival or the Sabbath or anything like that. She just says in verse 23, it will be all right. She says, I'm fine. It's fine. Give me a donkey and the servant so I can go see the man of God. It's fine. Everything's fine. So the husband, he agrees. He gets her what she needs. So she goes off to find Elisha. So Elisha, he sees her coming. He says, Gehazi, isn't that lady that lets us stay at her place whenever we go through the town of Shunem? And Gehazi says, yes it is. So Gehazi runs out to try to meet her before she gets to Elisha. And she said, it's fine. Everything's fine. I just need to see the man of God. So when she gets to Elisha, she falls down on her knees. Here we go. Verse 27, when she came up to the man of God at the mountain, she fell on the ground before him and caught hold of his feet. Gehazi began to push her away, but Elisha says, Gehazi, leave her alone. She is deeply troubled, but the Lord has not told me what it is. So the lady says, Elisha, did I ask you for a son? No. But you told me that I was going to have a son. Now my son has died. My heart is heavy. Why'd you do this to me? So Elisha says, Gehazi, get over here. Verse 29, get ready to travel. Take my staff and go. Don't talk to anyone along the way. Go quickly and lay the staff on the child's face. But the boy's mother said, as surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, I won't go home unless you go with me. So Elisha returned with her. So when Elisha gets there, he sees this child dead on the bed. So what does Elisha do? Where is it? Verse 32. When Elisha arrived, the child was indeed dead, lying there on the prophet's bed. He went in alone and shut the door behind him and prayed to the Lord. Then he lay down on the child's body, placing his mouth on the child's mouth, his eyes on the child's eyes, and his hands on the child's hands. And he stretched out on him. The child's body began to grow warm again. Elisha got up, walked back and forth across the room once, then stretched himself out again on the child. This time the boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Then Elisha says, Gehazi, get in here. Tell the mother that her son is alive. When the lady comes back in, Elisha says, hey, here's your son. Take him. She fell down at his feet, super grateful. Then she took her son in her arms and carried him downstairs. How cool is that? The first recorded CPR. I'm just kidding, I don't know. All right, what can we learn from this? Well, the first thing is I think God sees, he notices, and he rewards unselfish generosity. So for this woman, rather than just provide a meal to Elisha when he came into town, she went a step further. She created an entire room for him to stay in. She created a place of rest, of honor, and peace. There was no indication that she did this expecting anything in return. In fact, when Elisha asked, like, what can we do for you because of your generosity? She's like, I'm good. I have everything that I need. But God saw her heart, and he allowed her to have a dream that she didn't even dare ask for. She had accepted the fact that, hey, my husband's very old. I think the childbearing days for me are behind me. And she had accepted the fact that she wasn't going to have children. But God saw her heart. He noticed her act of love towards Elisha, and he gave her that dream, which was cool. The reminder for us, I believe, is God sees these unnoticed acts of love. Even if we may not be trying to get something out of it, God sees it, he honors it, and he loves to surprise his children with blessings that we didn't even dare to ask for. So that's pretty cool. The second thing I think we can learn here is that sometimes I think we fall victim to this idea that if we have faith, that bad things won't happen to us. But I think faith doesn't prevent tragedy, it just points us to the healer. It drives us to go seek after God, who is the healer of tragedy. So here's this woman who had to literally watch her dreams die in her arms. Her son that she hadn't even asked for, but was blessed with, died in her arms. And I just thought it was kind of cool that her reaction wasn't, why me, why me? She simply saddled up her donkey. I'm going to go find the man of God. And she said, I'm fine, everything's fine. Not because it was fine, but because she was putting the situation in God's hands. And I think that sort of faith doesn't say there's going to be an absence of pain. It's simply saying that I'm not going to let this pain have the last word. I believe real faith is not proven when everything's going right, but rather when things are going wrong and we still have that faith to be able to say, God's in control of this situation and I'm going to put this in his hands. That's when our faith is really exercised and really tested. And finally, I think that God will see something that looks dead to the rest of us, and he will show us time and time again that he can revive that stuff. Woman's worst fears had come true. This child had died. Yet it wasn't finished. Through Elisha, God was able to breathe life back into what everybody else had declared a done deal. And what's cool about this is this wasn't just a healing. This was a full-blown resurrection. And I think what God's reminding us here is he doesn't just mend what's broken. He revives what is lifeless. And so this may apply to me and you today because we've given up on callings, on dreams, on hopes, whatever. But God reminds us that even if it looks dead in our eyes, he is not done. God's resurrection power isn't simply for the grave, but it's for other things in our life that he can bring life back into, even if we see it as dead. So, be generous, hold on to faith even when bad times hit you, and trust that God has resurrection power. Won't he do it?